I wish Senator James Lankford of Oklahoma's Prevent Government Shutdown Act had passed, but it hasn't. Senator Lankford, we're on the verge again. You're a alum of the House. What is the state of play with shutting down the government?
Well, it's still in conversation, obviously. Good morning, by the way. So there's a lot to be done in the next 10 days, basically, to be able to get everything done that needs to be done. I do hope that we can get this prevent government shutdowns bill so we're never in the spot again. I hate seeing the countdown clock and everyone talking about at what point the United States of America and our government is going to be able to go into shutdown. We do need to have the debt and deficit conversation, but we don't need to have it in the middle of a shutdown. That just hurts federal workers. It hurts our economy. It spends more money. It wastes taxpayer dollars. So let's actually have the argument. Let's keep the government actually functional.
You know, 5 Republicans voted against advancing the Defense Appropriations Act yesterday, including Matt Rosendale, who would like to join your ranks in the Senate. And he won't. You can't be anti-defense and become a Republican. Dan Bishop in North Carolina, Ralph Norman in South Carolina wants to beat Lindsey Graham. That's a silly fight. What do you tell your former colleagues in the House about voting against defense spending? That's really a nightmare for a Republican.
Yeah, well, it is. Obviously, the main focus we have is national defense, equal opportunity for every single individual across the country. Those are basic principles for Republicans. This Indian government shutdown bill that I've got would actually keep us going in the debate. And it's a pretty simple, straightforward way to be able to do it. You keep the government open and operating with a continuing resolution just short term, but we can't actually move to anything other than appropriations. So if we have a fight over defense appropriations, we just keep the argument going until we solve it rather than closing the government down and keeping the fight going. That doesn't make sense.
Now, the preventing government shutdown, does that renew the continuing resolution on a monthly basis, a weekly basis? Because I hate CRs because they don't let the Pentagon change anything, and they need to change a lot of things. How does it work?
I get that completely. It actually renews it every two weeks, but the trigger on it really is members of Congress and our staff, members of OMB in the executive branch. We can't travel. Congress is in session 7 days a week. Every single day of the week, we have a quorum call, and the only bills that we can actually move to under it are appropriation bills. So the most simple way to say it is, if you're in class and you haven't finished your work, you got to stay after class until you actually finish your work on it. So it keeps us in continuous session working on appropriations. I can assure you in this body that if we're here 2 weeks in a row without any weekends and we can't move to other things under appropriations, this body will actually get its work done. There's no motivation in this body like jet fumes that we get to the end of the week and everybody says, I need to get home to see my family. I've got a Codell I've got to get to. I've got a fundraiser. I've got an event with constituents. Everybody has things they've got to be able to do. And if we're locked into this place saying you're here 7 days a week, every single day we got to work on appropriations until it gets done, we will not be long in a continuing resolution. We will actually.
I love that. How many Democratic co-sponsors do you have, Senator Lankford?
We have 5 at this point in the Senate, so we're trying to be able to keep this as even as we can, Republicans and Democrats. This started from the very beginning with Maggie Hassan from New Hampshire. She and I sitting down together and saying there's never been a nonpartisan way to end government shutdowns. All the bills in the past have all been partisan. So we started from the beginning saying, how do we do a nonpartisan way? The equalizer is time in this place. If you really want to put a crunch on every member of Congress and our staff, it's take away time, and to be able to focus in on that, that actually motivates us to be able to get it done. It puts the pressure where it needs to be, and it holds the federal workers and the American people harmless while we argue things out here.
I also would say every other election year, every other year that's an election year, it would have a double accelerant because the members who are up in the Senate have got to get home, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah. The focus again is whatever the fiscal year is. This is a totally different subject, but I'd rather have the fiscal year be the same as the calendar year, run January to December, but that's not what it is right now. It runs October to the end of September. So you're right. During an election year, it puts additional pressure that we've got to be able to be here to be able to get it done. That's both House and Senate, staff and members. But again, if we get to that point, there's lots of different options. We can actually pass appropriation bills and it doesn't kick in. That would be revolutionary. We could do a CR to be able to extend it out. But the one thing you can't have is a shutdown. That can't actually occur under this, so that we keep the argument going.
Well, I hope that succeeds. Let me ask you one exit question, Senator. In terms of the funding for the border, if there is a government shutdown, The demand the Republican House makes has got to be coherent and short. I think it ought to be about the border fence, doubling the border patrol, and building facilities for migrants. That's it. Focus on that. Do you have any idea what they're going to focus on as a demand if the government shuts down?
I don't at this point. One of the things we need to have in that demand is not to be able to do Biden's proposal for the border at this point. He wants additional flexibility in the border to be able to pay for housing. He wants to pay for medical care. He wants to pay for legal counsel for people that are crossing the border. He wants flexibility to get money that way. That should be a non-starter, number one. And then we should actually focus in on what are we doing to actually expedite hearings. If you want to actually do increased border security, whoever came across the border last should be first up to be able to have a hearing. That would be a major deterrent. Right now, if you cross the border, you get an 8-year line to be able to actually get to a hearing. So you might as well just be waving someone in. So that's the big change that we need to actually have is hearings right off the bat for asylum requests, because the vast majority of people requesting asylum don't actually qualify for asylum, and everyone knows it.